So it's almost time for the big build of the polytunnel. Now you're probably watching this now, and I am probably on my way back from Malvern, the garden show for autumn. And yeah, so this video is planned out to the fact that it's almost time to build, but I need to do some planning. So I figured, and I've learned in the past that people sometimes struggle with the layouts of the plots and positionings and things. So I thought, I've come up with a good idea, I think, of getting some coloured ribbons, and I'm going to mark out the polytunnel, the possible polytunnel direction, because there's two options, measuring out the fruit cage, measuring out the greenhouse, and having them different colours so that you can kind of understand where everything's going. So these are the ribbons that I've got. I've got a green, I've got a yellow, and I've got a red, and I've also got a white version as well for the greenhouse when I move that over as well. But I figured this would be a good idea of marking out what the building will be, you know, footprint wise, because I might put it down and think, whoa, that's too close to this new shed, or too close to the trees. So that's kind of what I want to visually be able to see it. And also then I'll put up a sort of blueprint on top as well that I've drawn on the computer, so that you can kind of see colour coordinated which one. You'll see what I mean once I do it. So let's get this done. So I've got my pins, got a measuring tape and some ribbon. Let's start marking out the polytunnel. So first of all, let's remove these cones. They are past it now. I've taken off all the cobs that I needed. So let's take these down a bit. Now I am going to try and start the polytunnel originally from here, because I want to try and keep the leaks in if I can. But we shall see. We shall see.
Days without water along the sun-soaked road, we crossed over borders to get where we are, and it's all for you, it's all for you, it's all for you, it's all for you. I did it all for you. It's all for you. It's all for you. It's all for you. Nights without sleeping, 'cause you fear the night. And days without eating, 'cause it ain't enough for two. And it's all for you. It's all for you. It's all for you. It's all for you. I did it all for you. It's all for you. It's all for you. It's all for you.
So the polytunnel's all marked out, and it's actually, it looks huge. I'm going to lop down the tree branches now, because obviously I know that they're definitely going to get in the way, and I think the tree might have to come down. But I bought some new loppers, which are here, so I'm going to use these now, take down some of the branches, because they'll interfere with the plan that I've got. But yeah, marking out like this does give you perspective of just how big it's going to be. It's a big tunnel. Also looks like a crime scene.
When it is freezing, I will keep you warm.
So as you can see now, I've got the red tape going out this way, so it goes a long ways down the plot, and also yellow tape on the back here going the full length. So it's giving me a perspective really that, yeah, it is quite a big tunnel, I must admit, but I got a feeling that I am going to do the yellow version, because otherwise I'm going to lose these two beds here as well. And yes, I could move the polytunnel more over that way or over this way, because there is 4 foot gap either side, so I wouldn't do that. I probably would move it over another 2 foot there and have 6 foot beds going down here. But the issue with that is growing in them. Like, I could only grow like short plants in them then, because you don't want like tall beans or Brussels sprouts and kales and things, because you'll start blocking up the ventilation, blocking the light out as well through summer. And that's the whole point of having the polytunnel, is to get as much light in there as I can. So yeah, it's a great idea what I've done, because it's put things into perspective of how big it's going to be, and yeah, how much space I'm going to have to give up for this polytunnel. But all is not lost in space, because obviously I'll be growing indoors as well. So people always think having these big structures, oh, I'm losing so much growing space. No, you're just putting it under cover. You've still got the amount of space that you had before. You're just controlling the environment a little bit better. So the plan is to do the same now with the fruit cage, so I can kind of guess, you know, because these are going to be 2 big structures on that plot. Do I move the fruit cage over to the fig and olive plot, leave the greenhouse there and build the shed where it is? It just gives me that idea now of, you know, I'm glad really that the polytunnel's taken that extra little bit of time, because it's given me time now to make the decision and make it right for the plot, because I don't want to put the polytunnel there and then move the fruit cage next to it and it's like all these big towers and everything's shaded out. So yeah, it's make sure that you definitely 100% make sure that it's the right place for your allotment or your garden, because once it's in, it's a pain to get it back out and move it somewhere else. So ideally I want to try and keep these 6 beds here. This is valuable growing space. The sun comes from here downwards, and yeah, it gets a lot of sun, so I want to try and keep that as much as I can. Now we've still got the pumpkin area, which is obviously going to be coming up soon. I mean, everything's dying back now. I'll try and harvest those pumpkins today as well. This area here, which is going to be used for, you know, I'm thinking now, perhaps should I put all my beds going all the way down here, you know? And I think that might be a good option of moving these beds over after I've taken all this foliage down and moving them over. That might be the plan. Then I might turn this area then into all the metal raised beds, because it's a smaller area, and then this long area here going row after row. And I mean, it'll look quite boring really, I think, but I need to make sure that I've got decent growing space for the vegetables. So what do you think? Do you think I should move these wooden raised beds over and then, you know, put quite a few down, you know, this long stretch of land that I've not really got no plans for, apart from the fruit cage, which could go over to the fig and olive, I suppose. So I'm going to mark that out as well and see how big that'd be on there, because yeah, when you have these structures and you order them, you think it'll be all right, and then when you build it, you're like, oh my god, it's huge, it's taking up a lot of space and light and height. So I want to make sure that they are positioned enough from each other that they don't encroach each other, and also don't become like you feel claustrophobic on my plot. And you know, make sure that you do the same in your gardens. So yeah, there's definitely a lot to think about here. So it looks like we're going to lose the leeks, I think. Now the option is where the yellow one is, the yellow line, that could move over to the leek area here, I suppose. But my other plan was to add another 2 of these wooden raised beds down here, but then obviously put low plants down there, like these leeks or cabbages and things like that, that are not going to go too high off the ground and encroach on this space. Like, you would not put these down and then put runner beans right next to your polytunnel, because you're just going to be shading it all out. But yeah, I don't know whether or not I'm going to keep that there or move it up and into this area here. But if I can do this, then that'd be better. But even so, when they build the polytunnel, they're going to be trampling over these leeks anyway, so it's what to do for the best. And if you remember, I cut all this back, and as you can see, the bindweed now is taking over again. So this area has become a bit of a pest. When I took over the plot, I knew this was going to be this headache area, but it'll get done over autumn and winter. I'll dig this all out. There's fruit bushes under here, blackcurrant, raspberries, gooseberry bushes, you name it, there is under this mound here. And I'll clear it all back, knock this shed down, and this area then will be good to go as well. So it'll be good prime growing space. So it's not like I'm going to be short of space with some good sunlight. So the live started back up on Thursday and it was an absolute riot. I had Jane Kelly, Gem in the Garden on there, and Chris from Veggie Plot. We had a brilliant time. So if you haven't already, go and check out the live from Thursday nights, and it'll be every Thursday now all the way till March, 7 p.m. on a Thursday, like I mentioned. But yeah, so they're obviously a bit of fun. We try and give as much knowledge as we got on certain topics, and also some general garden chit chat. So yeah, welcome back, lives. So this is pretty much the plan that I've just actually made on the computer. So this now will be the layout I think I'm going to take, is the yellow one. Now I've got the red one set out, as you know, and as much as it looks better long ways, I think the problem is then I'm going to be losing a lot more space, in fact, of sunlight. So if I put it the red way, I'm going to have shorter beds either side of the polytunnel, and it's just not gonna, I'm not gonna be able to put anything tall next to those. So I think the fact is, I think I'm just gonna settle with the yellow one. I might bring it up a little bit, but yeah, I think I'm settling with the yellow one. But like I said, it's good that I use those ribbons because it gives you a more of a visual look of how it's gonna be. And I mean, it's looking pretty big, to be honest, but I think I'm excited to be growing in it next year. You know, I'm still kicking myself a little bit that I've lost the polytunnel over here, but on to new things, on to, you know, better things for next year. So one thing I do want to show you in the plot that I grow purely for structure and for the display that it produces, but some people grow them and then they cook them, is the globe artichoke. Now look at this, look at this absolute beauty. It's just beautiful in there. Like if you want to grow them just for these alone, and the big foliage that comes with them, they're great. So, you know, next year maybe add these on your seed list and grow some globe artichokes. Now the one thing I've noticed when I've removed some of the nets is the Brussels sprouts. Now already, you know, we're just delving into October territory. We're nearly there now, you know, autumn is here. But let me show you some of the Brussels sprouts already. Now inside here, look, some beautiful big Brussels sprouts. Let's take some of the foliage off and I'll show you them. Look at those now. They're just beautiful. I mean, a couple of weeks now and they'll be perfect for picking, and then the smaller ones above will start to grow bigger as well. So I'm pleased with these so far. Now, even though I took over this plot at probably the worst time ever, you know, middle of spring, and nothing was ready, but luckily I put Brussels sprouts in, beans, cabbages, Swedes, leeks, corns, and tomatoes and beans and everything else, you know, French beans. And yeah, everything has produced really well. Even the pumpkins I'm happy with. So sometimes, you know, just make the most of the time that you've got. If it's just put some weed fabric down, plant some pumpkins, and you've got a crop, and you can deal with that soil later on when you've got time. And that's what I've done with this plot. You know, the fig and olive was all set up, the plants need to go out, and they're done. You know, they've used this space, but does it look the prettiest? Absolutely not. But it will for next year. It will get better and better. But yeah, don't beat yourself up if you can't get the most perfect plot that you want. Just use the plot to the maximum that you can in the time and the effort that you've got, because life gets in the way sometimes. But yeah, at least I've got some crops. That's what I'm happy about. I can sort out all the pretty stuff later on. So the Blauhilders now, they're almost at the end. I mean, I'm waiting for them to dry out a little bit and then I can take down this structure. So these now will be all the seeds for next year. So yeah, now's the time. I can see under here there's still some flowers coming, but yeah, the Blauhilders have done for now. But yeah, hopefully we'll have some for next year. So in between me doing a bit of this work, I've just noticed Linda just wheeled on the path with the trolley. So let's go see if we can get a cuppa and a chocolate bar. So as you can see now, autumn is definitely starting to come onto the plot. So everything's dying down. The sunflowers, look at these sunflowers, they're glorious over there. Let's go see if Linda... Any time for a cuppa? So next door has given up their plot, and I'm sure by spring there'll be a new plot holder taking over this area, and yeah, hopefully they'll turn this into the paradise it once was. So I'm in the greenhouse, and now is the time to be looking at all the little seedlings that are going to be for autumn and winter crops. So now's the time to be preparing your plot and your garden for those colder months. Now let me show you what's going on in the greenhouse. So the snake bean is actually turning into this big snake now. So yeah, like I mentioned last week, I'm going to be keeping this one for seed for next year. And also look, this here as well. Now underneath here is all my elephant garlic. Some of these are mono bulbs. Now if you've got ones like this, now it means that they haven't split, but this big spherical bulb is an elephant garlic, but next year this will be a big, hopefully big elephant garlic bulb like this one. Now this one has split, as you can see, and this one I'll divide that now when I plant in Halloween. I always do it at October the 31st time, and I've got quite a few elephant garlic to go in. And down here I've got some Lautrec and some Cadors, and also some other smaller white varieties, but I am going to get some more at Malvern. So hopefully by now you're watching this, like I said, I should be on my way home with a bag full of fresh garlic ready to plant out as well, because I want to try some new varieties as well. These are beautiful. If you haven't got no elephant garlic, please try it because it's beautiful. Just put a whole bulb in the oven in some foil, olive oil and some salt and pepper, and even some chili flakes if you want, and then just close it up. I'm not even telling you, after about an hour you can squeeze all that out onto some nice fresh bread, homemade garlic bread. So let's look at the brassicas. So the greyhounds, they're doing okay. This is the purple sprouting broccoli, they're doing all right. These are the what are these, Borkul cabbage. This one's not doing as well here, I must admit, but we've got plenty. I've got some red kales. I've also got some winter jewel cabbage here, and underneath the April cabbage is my favourite, are doing great. Also the golden acre and the Cavallonero kales, they're doing okay as well. And obviously the coriander, I'm going to have to start splitting this up I think and putting it into pots. So yeah, like I said last week, it's nuts to think that people think that winter comes and autumn comes and we just shop up. Like, I mean, look how much is growing. I mean, I'm doing this ready as well for the polytunnel, and I've got a pile more seeds as well, mustards and some winter lettuces and things like that. But the reason is because I want to kind of plant up the polytunnel a bit as well, so that we've got, you know, a bit of plants in there as well, because there's nothing worse than having it built and then I got nothing to go in there until spring. So that's what I want to do. I want to use the polytunnel over winter and try and grow a couple of crops. So yeah, it won't be long now. Couple of weeks, Danny, couple of weeks. So this ribbon won't be wasted. I mean, I will use it to tie up plants, and I will use it to strengthen, maybe even for tomatoes for next year. But yeah, this ribbon won't be wasted. It'll be used for something else in the garden. So I'm going to keep up the yellow ribbon just so that I've got a mental picture of how big it's going to be, and I might move it a little bit like I mentioned. You know, I might move it maybe a foot this way or a foot that way. But yeah, polytunnel is sketched out, I suppose. Now I think I'm going to start ripping down the bean structures and start taking this plot back down to the ground. I mean, I wanted to show you as well. So yeah, before I start pulling down all the structures now, in a little bit of me when I'm rushing around and like a little bit of music, you know. And let me show you, I've left a cabbage because I want to show you what cabbage looks like when it goes to seed, because I had a comment a couple of weeks ago saying like, you mentioned about the cabbage that's split, but what happens afterwards? Let me show you. This is what happens. This big massive plant structure comes shooting out from it. It's a bit like an Alien movie really. It splits and then the stem comes up through the middle here and starts as, and then this will become a flower head. So yeah, this is literally what happens to a cabbage. It's like an Alien film. It breaks out of the stomach and a plant comes out. Weird. Now these leeks have had it as well. They're going to flower. I mean, look how unhealthy they look. So these are going to definitely go. I'll leave these other leeks in until the polytunnel guys come, but it's time to start clearing down this plot because I want to dig all this over in the next couple of weeks before they turn up and flatten this area so it's completely flat, weed membrane down, so they've got somewhere that's not muddy and they can start building this big structure. So, like I said, don't forget the live shows. They're on every Thursday, 7 p.m, all the way through autumn, winter and the start of spring. And hopefully the gardeners that I've got on will help you along the way through those months and also prepare you ready for spring. On next week's now, which is on Thursday, Gardener Scott, Tony from Simplified Gardening and also Nigel from Muddy Boots will all be there. You know, some legend gardening, you know, gardeners there. So pop along, show some support, and honestly, it should be a really good show. So yeah, come along, join in. Well, that was a few jobs and a half, but they're done. So now the next couple of weeks, I'm going to start preparing the plot for the polytunnel for autumn and winter, taking all the plants back down to ground level, sorting out the plot, feeding the soil, filling up the beds so that they're all, you know, ready. They're raring to go for spring, continuing growing the plants. So there's plenty to do in autumn and winter. I'm Danny, and this is Grow Up.